afternoon and welcome inside Bojangles Coliseum, another edition of Checkers Pregame Live. I'm play-by-play voice TJ Shalott, joined as always by Miles Conrad, our PA announcer here inside the Biscuit. And Miles, we've got a great weekend on tap against the Hartford Wolfpack, celebrating some great causes, including cystic fibrosis night here tonight, as well as Hockey is for Everyone tomorrow night. And this Charlotte Checkers team, they're now sitting in fourth place in the Atlantic Division, in a very crowded Atlantic Division, 4 massive points on the board. Can the Checkers get it done against Hartford?
I think they can, TJ. Now, looking at this matchup, it is always, these teams are so well evenly matched. Going back to the playoffs last year, every game feels like a playoff game, and I think we're really going to see that this weekend, especially because you mentioned this division is so tight, TJ. Really, 6th place could jump to 2nd place in a week if they really wanted to, right? Every point is crucial going down the stretch now, TJ. It's going to be an exciting weekend in the Biscuit.
It's funny that you bring up that playoff series, and we might have mentioned it on the show once before, but it seemed like Hartford could never win in this building no matter what they did until that playoff series last year. And this season, they've had some good success against the Charlotte Checkers, who trailed pretty mightily in the season series. Only 1 win to their 4 losses against Hartford so far this year. But some big news for the Charlotte Checkers team, a massive signing earlier this week. Jesse Puljujarvi will make his Checkers debut here tonight. Puljujarvi, a veteran of the NHL, playing in Edmonton, Carolina, and most recently Pittsburgh. This is a guy who had a little bit of a dispute with his playing time. They wanted to send him back down to the AHL. I guess he wasn't having it, and he said, I'm going to request that my contract be terminated. Pittsburgh, they said, sure, go ahead. They put him on waivers. No one picked him up, and the Charlotte Checkers swooped in and signed him to a PTO. So Jesse Puljujarvi will make his debut here tonight for the Charlotte Checkers on that top line. And as a guy with well over 380 games, a former first-round pick, he was 4th overall back in 2016. Miles, what do you expect to see out of him in his debut here this weekend?
Well, first of all, the 4th overall pick in 2016, obviously we know he has the skill to be there, but he also has the experience. That's a key part of this that fans need to pay attention to. He brings in experience playing with the Edmonton Oilers. Look, this guy played with Connor McDavid, right? He played in Pittsburgh. He played in Carolina. These are successful franchises. He got to see what it takes to be successful at that NHL level. He's bringing that in right at the key point of the season where the final stretch is really about to begin, TJ. A massive, massive signing for the Checkers. And listen, it's not just goals. Obviously the highlights you're watching right now, unbelievable goals by Puljujarvi, but it's what he does in the corners. It's his vision for the game. His passing is crisp. And again, this is a hungry player, like you just said, TJ. He's going to want to make an impact starting at puck drop tonight. Very excited to see his impact on this team.
Yeah, and you talk about it. Look, this is a guy that's 6'4". He plays really well in the corners, and he does have some AHL experience this season. He's got 3 points in 4 games for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. So we're hoping to see some of that production because ultimately this Checkers team still hurting with some injuries. Still no Zach Dalpe. Still no Aiden McDonough. Both of those guys on the mend should be back relatively soon. I think we might see Aiden McDonough sooner rather than later. I'm not 100% about that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but this is a huge add. The only question I have is how quickly can he get used to head coach Jordy Kinnear's system, the Florida Panthers system, if you will. How quickly can he get used to that style of play as a guy who's been around multiple NHL franchises, a former first-round pick? This is a guy with natural ability, natural talent. I expect him to get acclimated real quick. So that was the huge news this week for the Charlotte Checkers. On the other side, though, there's been one guy in particular who's just been a pest for this Hartford Wolfpack team. Who was it, Miles?
Well, let's go behind enemy lines here, TJ, and we're going to talk about the goaltender, Dylan Garand. And Checkers fans know the name, and they know his flashy glove. This is a player that has dominated the Charlotte Checkers since that playoff series last year. My gosh, TJ, it was like an entire brick wall in goal, and that was facing incredible shots. I don't know if you remember, the Checkers were putting up a ton of shots on him. There's a few keys to beating Garand that I want to get into, TJ. First of all, stop shooting at the glove side. His glove has been an absolute terror for this Checkers team. what you're seeing in the highlights right now, Checkers fans, Dylan Garand, watch him. His body is always in front of the puck. It's almost like he's a step ahead of where the puck's going. You're going to have to get him out of position and go towards the 5-hole. Listen, as of late, his goals against average has, increased a little bit as of lately. You look at the highlights there, a lot of people are going low on Garand. The Checkers are going to have to do that. Look for, Puljujarvi, what a absolute rocket of a shot. Love to see him impact right here with Dylan Garand. But you have to move Garand out of the net. Smart shots on him as well. That's the other thing, because like I was just saying, in the playoff series, they might have had 38 shots on goal. How many of those were right into the chest? Move him out of position. Get that glove. Make him uncomfortable, TJ. That's what we have to do. He has gotten way too comfortable in Bojangles Coliseum. Make him uncomfortable. That's going to be a key for the Checkers winning. We don't know how many times we're going to see Garand this weekend, but we're going to see him. You're going to have to move him out of position. That's the guy to beat for the Checkers to get important points this weekend, TJ.
Yeah, and Hartford deploys both Dylan Garand and Louis Domingue pretty much in a 1A, 1B style. So you're going to see Garand at least once, and you'll likely see Domingue in the other game. When you look at Garand's numbers this year, 24 games played, 13-7-4. He's got 3 shutouts to his name. His goals against average, 2.69 and a .914 save percentage. Surprisingly, he's only faced the Checkers once this year. But of course, he's got a victory. It's 1-0 happened right here in this building. So Dylan Garand, Miles is behind enemy lines featured player. Let's talk about some more feature players. I want to flip the script to the Charlotte Checkers side and our players to watch. I'll kick things off with Kyle Criscolo. I think he is a huge key for the Charlotte Checkers team going forward. We talk about the addition of Puljujarvi. He's going to mesh so well with the John Leonards, the Will Lockwoods, and the Kyle Criscolos of this team. Criscolo was a huge factor for this Checkers team in late October, November, early December, especially when the Checkers were going through most of their injury woes. They're kind of on the other side of that injury bug. Still a couple more guys like we talked about that are on their way back, but I think Criscolo, who leads the Checkers in points against Hartford, scored in his last outing against Bridgeport on Saturday last week. I think he's going to turn that goal into a hot streak here and go up against Hartford, a team that he's had some really good success this season. How about you, Miles, when you take a look at players to watch in this one, who are you keeping an eye on?
Well, you're going to need offense to beat Dylan Garand and really this entire Hartford team. I'm looking at John Leonard. And again, this is a guy that can take over a game. And the highlights you're about to watch was from his hat trick game on Stanley Cup night back in December. And you look at this, the speed that he brings. You're going to have to get behind this Hartford defense as well, because that's another big blocker for this Checkers team. The Hartford defense has done a great job of blocking those shots before they get to Garand or Domingue, right? John Leonard has the speed, the accuracy to get around them, and his vision for the ice as well. I mean, you're obviously seeing highlight reel hat trick goals. His assists are right there, TJ. This is a very balanced player, and the Checkers absolutely need him to show up big time this weekend to get some points.
19 goals on the year. He leads the team in that category. He also leads the team in points as well. And you bring up that hat trick game back in December. It was on the 21st. Don't tell my fiance this, but best day of my life so far. It was my birthday. I got to see the Stanley Cup in person and call a John Leonard hat trick. Thank you very much. You want to talk about the trifecta? Never forget that day. But he's been so good ever since. And all year long, John Leonard has stepped in and has been that one consistent for the Charlotte Checkers team. So now that we've talked about the players and the guys that we think are going to make an impact, what does this team have to do in order to get the victory against the Hartford Wolfpack? It's time for my Hendrick Acura keys to the game. Let's jump into my first key in this one. The Charlotte Checkers, they have to let the new faces settle in. And what I mean by the new faces, of course, Jesse Puljujarvi. He's going to get some big minutes on that top line. We alluded to it a little bit earlier in the show about how intelligent he is. His hockey IQ is so high. He's going to blend in with this team really well based on pure skill set, but you still have to get him acclimated to the system. You have to remember, if you're on his line or if you're a D pair that's out there with that line, you have to remember he might not know all the systems. So it's not just an automatic thing. You can't assume he's going to necessarily be somewhere like you would one of your other teammates who's been running this system just as long as you have, if not longer. So I think you have to let those new faces settle in. So while Hartford is trying to figure him out, I think it brings out the opportunity for the Checkers and some of the other scorers to just kind of fly under the radar and get some things done. But that was my first Hendrick Acura key to the game. Let the new faces settle in. Let's go ahead and take a look at my second Hendrick Acura key to the game: physical prowess powers. And when I talk about physical prowess, this is a Hartford team that has kind of bullied the Checkers this year. They need to turn that script around. You've got plenty of size out there. When you talk about guys like Patrick Giles, you now have the 6'4" of Jesse Puljujarvi. You've got Miklas Hovorka. You've got plenty of size. I'm not quite sure if Riley Bezo is going to be in the lineup tonight, but you have a lot of grit with guys like him and those fourth liners, Okulyar and Vilmanis. Throw some shoulders, sort of even. Throw some hits. Get them off their game and really don't let them settle in. Maybe I'm thinking of this game because I'm a diehard Philadelphia Eagle fan, but you need to do to them what the Eagles did to the Chiefs on Sunday. They just didn't let them get into a rhythm because they just attacked, both offensively, and they got to play strong defense and be physical. So that is my second key to this game, is that physical prowess has to come through. And my third Hendrick Acura key to the game: limit the odd man rushes. It seems to be a little bit of an issue that the Checkers have faced this season, particularly against Hartford with those odd man rushes. They need to play some stout defense and not allow Hartford and their speed. These guys like Alex Belzile, they love to slip in behind the defenders and then race their way into the offensive zone. You can't let that happen. This is a Hartford team that looks for those odd man rushes. They try to catch you off balance, so the Checkers D has to play tight. So those were my Hendrick Acura keys to the game. Number one, let the new faces settle in. Number two, the physical prowess. And number three, limit the odd man rushes. So Miles, all that said, we've covered a good amount here on the show, almost 15 minutes worth of content. I want to see what you think is going to happen this weekend between the Checkers and Wolfpack.
Starting out tonight, I think this is going to be a tight game. Like you said, and your Eagles, congratulations, by the way, TJ.
Joe Birds, thank you very much.
Defense is going to be so key for this Checkers team. We talked about what it takes to beat Dylan Garand. You just mentioned it, limiting the odd man rushes. It felt, even in that 1-0 game that lost earlier this season, my gosh, it felt like that Hartford had 6 or 7 odd man rushes. You don't need to rely on goaltending. The Checkers have great goaltending. You don't want to rely on that. Limit their chances and make them uncomfortable, just like you said the Eagles did. Do not let Hartford get comfortable for a single second. I think we see a tight game. I would love to see the Checkers come out on top. I think the final score of this game, no matter what, is going to be 2-1, TJ. A tight checking game, a tight scoring game, playoff feel, as all matchups have been with Hartford this season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is going to be another low-scoring game. Fun fact for you, the loss against Bridgeport on Saturday was the first time they've lost by more than 3 goals this season. It was a 5-1 final in favor of the Islanders. That goes to tell you how well this team's been playing on the back end. They have not just been taken to the woodshed at all this season. I don't expect that to happen. I think it's going to be another tight one. I'm going to say it's a 3-1 final. Checkers adding on that extra empty netter late in the third period. Because, again, this is a scenario where the Charlotte Checkers team is coming off just about a week's worth of rest, has been here all week, whereas Hartford played on Wednesday. They took on the Islanders themselves just this past Wednesday. Yes, that was a home game at Xcel Center in Hartford, Connecticut, but they still had to play that game, wrap everything up after the game, then go ahead, turn around, get on a plane, get down here Thursday. They had one day in Charlotte to practice on Friday, and then they're right back into it. So it's one of those tight turnarounds for a team. I think that could lead to a little bit of jet lag in this first game, which we've seen. We saw it with Milwaukee back in January. It's the same situation. They were playing Iowa at home and then had to turn around and get here for a 2-game set on the weekend. And I think it's one of those things where they were a little sluggish in game 1, but then they turned around in game 2 after that full day and kind of punch the Checkers back in the mouth. So it's one of those things where the Charlotte Checkers are going to have to play an entire 60 minutes both games. It's going to be tight both games. I do think they pull out the win here by a final score of 3-1.
Yeah, well, I think, TJ, I think you're absolutely right with the jet lag comment. And I think that plays even more into the Checkers of getting them uncomfortable. Don't let them start on time. We talked about it, TJ. A key for us all season has been starting on time, and the Checkers have sometimes not started till about 10 minutes into the first period. Don't let Hartford get comfortable. This is our house. This is not Hartford's house. Dominate from the beginning, like you said, 60 minutes, gas pedal to the floor, TJ. I want to see a full dominant game. And again, they could dominate this game for 60 minutes and still win by a score of 2-1. That's how these games have just been.
Absolutely right. And you know what? It is our house, and we need you all to be here. I know tickets were thin coming into this one. It is going to be a packed house. It's going to be a raucous crowd. We've got so much going on, not only tonight, but tomorrow. When you look at tonight, Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Night, where we shine the light on just a terrible, debilitating disease. It's also our friends at Alpha Graphics, their food drive. So all fans who bring in at least 5 non-perishable food items will get a free ticket to a future Charlotte Checkers game this season. So if you don't have your tickets, head on over charlottecheckers.com, or you can walk in through the box office and visit with us. We'd happily get you your seat. It's starting to fill up. It's going to be a busy arena here tonight as the Checkers take on Hartford. And if you can't make it tonight, you can always tune in on the broadcast on AHL TV presented by Flow Hockey, or WAME Radio and WAME 92.9 FM 550 AM, or through the Charlotte Checkers app. And if you can't make it here tonight, we best see you tomorrow night. Hockey is for everyone. 4 o'clock puck drops both today and tomorrow. Doors will be opening at 3 o'clock, which is just right around the corner, about 45 minutes from now. For Miles Conrad, I'm TJ Shalott, voice of the Charlotte Checkers. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of Checkers Pregame Live. We are back at it next weekend as the Charlotte Checkers are right back to a Saturday-Sunday matchup right around the corner. So join us every single Saturday, 2 hours before puck drop. We'll be on the air with Checkers Pregame Live at 2, with puck drop coming at 4. Checkers, Wolfpack, right here at the Biscuit coming up. We'll see you here at the show.